We have always looked up. Since the first humans traced stars into constellations and followed migrating birds across impossible distances, we have craned our necks skyward and dreamed of flight. It is one of our oldest desires to rise above the ground, to lift ourselves beyond the limits of bone and gravity. And with that dream comes another, deeper still, the dream of discovery. But what happens when someone flies too far? What happens when the story that seems inevitable, triumph, return, celebration, ends not with a landing, but with silence? There is a place in the Pacific where the sky meets the sea in an endless horizon. And somewhere along that invisible line, nearly a century ago, the world lost sight of one of its brightest lights. Amelia Earhart, pilot, pioneer, symbol of possibility, lifted off into the blue and was never seen again. How does someone like that simply disappear? And why, all these decades later, do we still feel the pull of that unanswered question, as if part of us is missing too? This is the mystery we will follow tonight, not just for the question of what happened to Amelia Earhart, but what our longing for the answer says about us. This is a story about a vanished pilot, but it is also about the human heart, which cannot stop searching for what it has lost. So, settle in, let the noise of the day fall away. We will wander together into the fog between fact and legend, between history and hope. And as we do, perhaps we'll find the story of Amelia Earhart is also, in some quiet way, our own. Welcome to Waking Dream Stories, a place where wonder meets rest. If the world feels heavy tonight, if your mind is crowded with things unsolved and undone, this story will ask nothing of you except to listen and drift. If you're drawn to wondering about the world in a way that makes you feel a little more hopeful as you fall asleep, then I hope you'll subscribe. We'll be here with more questions tomorrow. For now, let the world outside fade. Let your breathing slow. Take a deep breath. Let it out. And now, this mystery begins, as all great stories do, with an ordinary moment that becomes extraordinary. They called her Lady Lindy, but Amelia Earhart was never a copy of anyone. Born in Atchison, Kansas in 1897, she grew up climbing trees, collecting insects, and shooting rats with a .22 rifle. She kept a scrapbook of newspaper clippings about successful women, engineers, lawyers, film directors, professions that seemed impossible for girls of her time. It was not the biography expected of a young woman in that era, and that was exactly the point. She was curious, stubborn, and uninterested in the roles the world offered her. In 1920, she attended an air show in Long Beach, California. A pilot took her up in a biplane for 10 minutes, and in those 10 minutes, the ground fell away. Not just beneath her feet, but beneath her life as she'd known it. As soon as we left the ground, she would later say, I knew I myself had to fly. From then on, the horizon called. She saved money from odd jobs, truck driver, photographer, stenographer, to pay for flying lessons. She bought a second-hand yellow Kinner Airster and named it the Canary. In 1928, she became the first woman to fly across the Atlantic as a passenger, although she downplayed it, saying she was just baggage. 4 years later, she did it again, this time solo, becoming the first woman to fly the Atlantic alone. She set altitude records, speed records, and spoke endlessly about women's potential in a world that underestimated them. Letters poured in, not from governments or sponsors, but from children. Thousands of them. Little girls writing to say she had made them believe that anything was possible. One letter, preserved in her archives, reads, Dear Miss Earhart, I want to be brave like you. How do I start? And perhaps that was the real achievement, not the miles she crossed, but the imaginations she set in motion. By 1937, Amelia had her sights on one last great adventure: to become the first woman to circumnavigate the globe near the equator. It would be a 29,000-mile journey, a feat of endurance, navigation, and courage. She wasn't alone. At her side was Fred Noonan, an experienced navigator who had charted routes for Pan American Airways across the Pacific. Their twin-engine Lockheed Electra was equipped with state-of-the-art instruments for the time: radio direction finders, celestial navigation tools, and extra fuel tanks. Each leg of the flight was carefully planned, every supply accounted for. They departed from Miami on June 1st, 1937, heading east. Over the next month, they crossed South America, Africa, India, and Southeast Asia. By the time they reached Lae, New Guinea, they had completed 22,000 miles, 3/4 of their journey. Only 7,000 miles remained. And yet, the closer they got to the finish line, the thinner the margin for error became. On July 2nd, 1937, they departed from Lae en route to tiny Howland Island, a speck in the middle of an ocean the size of a continent. The island was barely 2 miles long, a sliver of coral and sand in 10 million square miles of water. Finding it without modern GPS was like threading a needle from across a room. They never arrived. Their last confirmed radio transmission came at 8:43 a.m. "We are on line 157-337, Amelia's voice said, crackling through static. "We will repeat this message. We will repeat this on 6210 kilocycles. Wait." Then, silence. No distress call, no wreckage, just a sudden absence. A human being here one moment and gone the next. The world responded with urgency and disbelief. The U.S. Navy launched the largest search and rescue operation in its history up to that point. The USS Lexington, an aircraft carrier, joined the effort along with battleships, destroyers, and reconnaissance planes. They combed 250,000 square miles of ocean, an area larger than Texas, dispatching ships and aircraft in a grid pattern that stretched for weeks. But nothing. No sign of the Electra. No floating debris. No radio signal. For weeks, newspapers speculated wildly. Some claimed Amelia had crash-landed on an uncharted island. Others said she'd been captured. A Florida woman named Nina Paxton swore she had heard Amelia's voice over her shortwave radio. Faint, frightened, pleading for help. "This is Amelia Earhart," the voice allegedly said. "Please help us." The Navy investigated. They found nothing to confirm it. And then, slowly, the world turned its attention elsewhere. Wars loomed. Headlines moved on. But not everyone. Some stories refuse to end just because the world stops watching. Here is the paradox that still haunts us. How can a person so well known, so closely watched, so heavily resourced, simply vanish? How can a plane disappear without a trace, leaving behind not even a clue for the tide to carry ashore? It is a question that transcends aviation and history. It is about the fragility of human plans, the vastness of the unknown, and the ache of unfinished stories. And in that way, the mystery of Amelia Earhart is not just about her, it's about us. We are the species that maps the stars and still loses people in plain sight. We are the ones who search the ocean floor, not only for evidence, but for meaning. And perhaps, if we're honest, we are searching for ourselves, for the missing pieces of our own story in the wreckage that never surfaces. We tell ourselves the disappearance was an accident, a tragedy of navigation and chance. And maybe that is true, but But the longer the silence lingers, the more our minds begin to wander. What if it wasn't just bad luck? What if the story is more complicated than we ever were meant to know? The horizon, after all, hides many things. And so, we stand here nearly 90 years later, still asking the same question: where did Amelia Earhart go? A question that begins as a piece of history ends as a mirror. Because when we look for her, we are also looking for the parts of ourselves that vanished with her. The courage to keep searching, the humility to live without answers, the hope that someday the silence might speak. Of course, the ocean keeps secrets. It swallows steel and memory with the same indifference. And when we peer into its blue silence, it offers us no answers, only reflections of our own questions. For almost 90 years, those questions have multiplied. They have taken on shapes both logical and fantastical, reasonable and wild. And in chasing them, we have revealed something profound about ourselves: that we cannot stand an unfinished sentence. We must know how the story ends. But to understand the gravity of Amelia Earhart's disappearance and the shadows it still casts, we must walk the path from the obvious to the unlikely, and finally to the almost unimaginable. It is the simplest story, and perhaps the most tragic. Amelia and Fred Newman, nearing the end of their 29,000-mile journey, were on one of its most dangerous legs, a 2,500-mile flight from Lae, New Guinea to Howland Island. The island was minuscule, 2 miles long, barely visible from the air, and finding it with modern GPS was almost impossible. Navigation in 1937 relied on dead reckoning, celestial fixes, and radio direction finding, none of which were foolproof. Clouds and overcast skies could obscure celestial cues. Atmospheric conditions could distort radio signals. And in the middle of the Pacific, there were few landmarks to correct errors. The theory goes like this: Amelia and Fred miscalculated their position. They flew along their planned line of position, 157 degrees by 337 degrees, but they never saw Howland. Fuel dwindled. With no land in sight, they ditched the Electra into the sea. If this is true, then somewhere beneath the Pacific's endless waves lies the wreck of their plane. Cradled by silt and coral, the final resting place of a dream. There is something quietly devastating about this version, not because it is dramatic, but because it is mundane. It suggests that even the most heroic journeys can end with something as ordinary as a missed calculation. And yet, this explanation leaves a hollow space, Because if all of that is true, then why has no trace ever been found? Over the decades, researchers have scoured the Pacific for signs of the Electra. In 2002, the deep-sea exploration company Nauticus used sonar to map the seafloor near Howland Island, searching depths of up to 20,000 feet. They found nothing. Then, the International Group for Historic Aircraft Recovery excavated a remote atoll following evidence that someone, perhaps Amelia, may have landed there. The island lies 350 miles southeast of Howland, along the line of position that Amelia radioed in her final transmission. They found artifacts: a woman's shoe from the 1930s, fragments of aluminum consistent with an aircraft, a pocket knife, a jar of freckle cream. They even found a partial skeleton in 1940, long dismissed as male, but now thought by some forensic experts to have possibly matched Amelia's height and build. Yet, nothing conclusive. And so, the official story, that she simply ran out of fuel and vanished beneath the waves, remains unsatisfying. It explains the physics, perhaps, but not the myth. When the ordinary leaves too many questions unanswered, the extraordinary begins to whisper. And in Amelia's case, the whispers have never stopped. Some believe Amelia was more than a pilot. They suggest she was working on behalf of the U.S. government, perhaps even Franklin D. Roosevelt himself, on a secret reconnaissance mission to photograph Japanese military installations in the Pacific. The evidence is circumstantial but intriguing. Amelia's flight path took her near the Marshall Islands, then under Japanese mandate and closed to foreigners. Japan was fortifying the islands in violation of international treaties, building airstrips and naval bases in preparation for war. The U.S. had reason to want eyes on those installations, but sending a military plane would be an act of aggression. Sending a famous civilian pilot on a goodwill flight, however, would raise no alarms. The U.S. Navy's immediate and massive search response was unusually intense, even for a national icon. Some declassified documents hint that certain portions of her final mission were coordinated with the government, though the context remains redacted. There are stories that she and Noonan were captured by the Japanese after crash landing in the Marshall Islands. Residents of Saipan later recalled seeing an American woman pilot taken into custody. A Marshallese woman claimed later that she saw Amelia's plane crash near Amelia Atoll and watched as Japanese soldiers took the two Americans away. Some even claimed she was executed as a spy before the outbreak of war. No hard proof, no definitive photos, but rumors, scattered testimonies, and one enigmatic image, a grainy photograph discovered in the National Archives in 2017, that possibly shows Earhart and Noonan alive on a dock in the Marshall Islands under Japanese guard. And now, the story that has lingered in shadow for nearly a century is stirring again. In September 2025, the President of the United States announced that he had ordered the declassification and release of all government records related to Amelia Earhart, her flight, her disappearance, and anything else that might remain locked away. The announcement followed a letter from Kimberlyn King Hines, a delegate from the Northern Mariana Islands, who cited credible first-hand accounts from Saipan residents who believed they saw Amelia in captivity. It is a remarkable development. After decades of speculation, the possibility that new evidence, perhaps classified communications, military memos, or intelligence files might come to light, has reignited the mystery. The world waits, and the speculation has already begun. Some believe the documents could confirm the spy theory, revealing a mission cloaked in secrecy. Others think they might include diplomatic communications, showing how the U.S. handled the fallout of a captured pilot. A few optimists imagine letters, diaries, or photographs that could rewrite the story entirely. Skeptics, however, caution against high expectations. Many government records related to Earhart were declassified long ago. What remains may be fragmentary or mundane, redacted beyond usefulness, or so bureaucratic they change nothing. Still, even fragments have power. Even silence, once lifted from the archives, can speak. The announcement itself, regardless of what follows, reveals something important. We have not let her go. Nearly a century later, the highest levels of government still feel compelled to address a mystery the world cannot stop asking about. And perhaps that says as much about us as it does about Amelia. There is a reason the story of Amelia Earhart refuses to settle into history. It is not just because we don't know what happened. It is because we need to know. We need stories to have endings. We need the missing to be found. But there is another truth, quieter and harder to face. Sometimes, the search itself becomes the story. Sometimes we are not really looking for the person who vanished. We are looking for something inside ourselves. We are looking for certainty in a world that offers none. We are looking for connection across the silence. We are looking for proof that the sky will give back what it takes. And in that way, Amelia Earhart has become more than a woman, more than a pilot, more than a historical figure. She has become a symbol of human curiosity, of relentless pursuit, of the refusal to let mystery win. In the Marshall Islands, some elders still tell stories of a sky woman who fell from the clouds, lived among them briefly, and was taken away by strangers. Maybe it's folklore, or maybe, as myths often do, it holds a seed of something real. Whatever the truth, Amelia lives on, not just in archives and speculation, but in the part of us that still gazes toward the horizon and wonders what lies beyond it. We are creatures of questions. We dig up wreckage, decode faint radio signals, re-examine photographs, and demand the release of long-buried files, because we cannot stand the thought that a story might remain unfinished. And yet, the longer we search, the more the story grows, and the more it becomes about us. Because in the end, maybe the mystery is not about where she went. Maybe it's about why we keep following. There's a moment in every great mystery when we realize that the answers may never arrive. It's a quiet moment, humbling, unsettling, but also strangely liberating. Because once we stop straining to solve the riddle, we begin to see what the search itself has been trying to show us. For nearly 90 years, the question, "Where did Amelia Earhart go?" has pulled us forward, across oceans, through archives, into the depths of speculation. And yet, with every theory examined and every expedition launched, we end up facing the same vast silence. But maybe silence is an emptiness. Maybe it's an invitation. Consider this. The mystery's endurance might be its purpose. If the ocean had returned the wreckage, if a telegram had arrived confirming capture, if the story had ended neatly, we would have filed Amelia Earhart away as just another name in the history books. We would have nodded at her courage, admired her achievements, and moved on. But because the story did not resolve, it still lives. It still breathes. It still draws us toward the horizon with a question that refuses to close. Perhaps the point was never to solve it. Perhaps the point was to learn how to live with it, how to carry uncertainty without fear, how to hold mystery without frustration, how to keep wondering even when the sky remains silent. That is what Amelia teaches us now, that the unknown is not a void to fear, but a space to explore. In the coming months, the promised declassification will unfold. Some documents may surface, perhaps dull, perhaps revelatory. Maybe they will confirm an old theory, or perhaps they will offer nothing new at all. Maybe after all the waiting, we'll be left with more questions than answers. And that is all right. Because every time we reopen this story, We do more than chase a vanished plane. We demonstrate the best parts of who we are. We prove that curiosity is relentless, that memory is resilient, that truth, even if unreachable, is still worth pursuing. And beyond the archives and the theories, the mystery continues to inspire the next generation of explorers, scientists, dreamers, and wanderers. Children still write school essays about Amelia. Pilots still speak her name before they lift off. In 2014, a 16-year-old girl named Amelia Rose Earhart, no relation, completed a flight around the world in honor of her namesake. And somewhere, someone who once felt powerless now believes that they too can do something extraordinary, because she once did. We are, in the end, explorers of more than land and sky. We are explorers of meaning. And when someone like Amelia Earhart disappears, we are reminded of how fragile our certainties are, and how beautiful it is that we reach beyond them anyway. We look for her, not just to know where she went, but to know where we are. We map the unknown, not just to find her plane, but to find ourselves in a story that is bigger than we ever imagined. And maybe that's why her story still resonates, because on some level, we are all in flight. We are all navigating by faint stars and distant signals, all searching for a place that may never appear exactly where we expect it. And when we do not arrive, when we drift into uncharted skies, we hope that someone, somewhere, will keep looking for us too. Because perhaps what truly defines us is not that we disappear, but that we are remembered, and that our stories call others to keep going. So, we return to the question we began with. Where did Amelia Earhart go? The answer, it seems, is both nowhere and everywhere. She is in the unanswered questions that still stir debates. She is in the dusty corners of archives waiting to be opened. She is in the courage of those who dare the unknown. She is in the child who looks up at planes in flight and dreams of flying into the horizon. The ocean may keep her plane. Time may guard her final moments. But her story, that belongs to all of us now. And so, we close with a truth softer and deeper than any theory. Some stories are not meant to end. They are meant to lift us, to lead us, to remind us that mystery is not a flaw in the universe. It is its heartbeat. Maybe Amelia Earhart never vanished at all. Maybe she simply kept flying into legend, into mystery, into the part of us that never stops searching. Some stories refuse to land. They circle endlessly above us, reminding us that the sky is still bigger than our explanations, The map is unfinished, and that is its gift. Because as long as the question remains, so does our wonder. And so we too keep flying, chasing horizons, chasing truth, chasing ourselves. Because the story of Amelia Earhart isn't about where she ended up. It's about how far we are willing to go to follow her. No matter what, I wish you peace and good thoughts. Good night, dreamers.